Behind me is a rotary and an LS. One is extinct and one is an endangered species. Seems like electric cars are going to be here to stay. Now, electric car mandates and everything are significantly decreasing, and they're increasing their years of when we're going fully EV. But there's a couple new EVs that I actually might be interested in. Now I want to tell a little story, and the story has to do with the RX-7 and more particularly the rotary engine. The rotary engine was designed by the Germans, and the whole idea of the rotary was to make everything more simple and more efficient, easier to service, less moving parts means more simplicity at the end of the day. Rotaries like this are pretty much done, and that has to do with emissions regulations. Now electric cars are very similar to rotaries, as in everything is made to be more simple. There's no servicing, there's no oil changes, there's nothing that goes into an electric car that needs to be serviced. It's the most simple a vehicle can get. I've never really liked the whole idea of electric cars. I've always been kind of against them, but lately my interests have been piqued. The Cybertruck seems cool. It doesn't look good, but it seems cool. The new Rivians are pretty cool, and we'll talk about that in just a second because I think it might be time to go away from gasoline altogether, to some extent. But electric cars are better now than what they were before. There's still inconveniences. You know, you can only go about 300, 400 miles on an electric car range, then you gotta plug it in, sit there for 30 minutes, and some people argue that it's not that big of a deal, but if you're road tripping or doing stuff on that extent, it's definitely a little painful. Now, most people would be lucky to have one car, and an EV car kind of puts a restriction on most people's day-to-days that I won't be able to park it and charge it at home or whatever the case may be, and the infrastructure still lacks a little bit. But for someone like me who has a few cars, I think it'd be interesting to add an electric car to the collection. Now, I don't think I'm going to be adding one in the very near future, but there's a car that just came out that won't officially be delivered for a couple of years that I think I'm going to order. And let's talk about it. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, I'm sure you guys have seen the new vehicles from Rivian. Rivian revealed 3 new vehicles. They revealed the R2, the R3, and the R3X. Now, for someone who claims to not like electric cars, I've been invested in electric car companies since I was 18 and could first legally invest. I've also been invested in Rivian since they IPO'd back in 2021 or 2022, whenever it was. Now, Rivian has crashed a lot since they first came out, but Rivian, I believe, does have a very huge upside when you compare Tesla and Rivian. Now, I'm not going to be talking about stocks. This is not stock advice. Now, when Rivian came out with their cheaper model a few days ago, I never expected to make this video. I didn't even watch the launch because I didn't really care. I'm invested in the company. I'm invested in seeing what they do in the future. But I wasn't really interested in getting one of their vehicles, 40, 50,000. There's a lot of other vehicles that aren't electric that I would like to get before that. I like to experience my dream cars, Porsches in that price range, BMWs in that price range, and cars that I legitimately want before buying an electric vehicle for that price. But then I saw the R3X, and it is really cool. I think auto manufacturers should have been doing this from the beginning, making cool vehicles like the Hummer EV, just cool, out there, standout vehicles that people would be interested in. Now, when I first saw the R3X, the reason I was really into it was because I thought it was a lot smaller than it was. The R3X is a crossover. I thought it was a little hatch. I thought it was a hot hatch. It's very weird when you put your eyes on it. It looks like it would be Volkswagen Golf sized or Lancia size, Lancia Delta Integrale size, and it kind of looks like a Lancia Delta Integrale, which is what I love about it, but it seems, based off of people standing next to it, that it's a lot bigger and that it is a full-on crossover, which is what they say it is. So I'm a little bummed it's bigger than I thought it was, but they're supposed to be cheaper than the R2s. I'm interested, but at the same time, I don't really know what the future holds. Deliveries on the R2s aren't supposed to begin until 2026 model year, I believe, which should be the end of next year. So there's still a whole 2 calendar years almost until they're supposed to launch. A whole year and a half, a little bit over a year and a half. And the R3s are probably gonna roll in around, I would guess 2026, the end of 2026 is 2027 models, which means there's about 3 years until we actually see them. And that has me interested because If I'm one of the first people to put an order in right now, you can't officially put an order in for these, but I think I'm going to get myself informed and get myself on the list. When they first come out, for about 3 to 6 months, they're going to be holding value very, very strong. Now, people are going to try to flip them, of course. I think that's a really dumb decision. People are trying to flip Cybertrucks for $225,000, but it's no longer 2020. People aren't willing to pay crazy overprices for vehicles anymore. All the Cybertrucks I see people trying to flip, people are just laughing at them because they'd rather just wait a couple more months until more hit the market and they literally half in value. But if this vehicle is about $45,000 after you get some options on it, and it's about $45,000 after 6 months if I really don't like it, I mean, I won't really be losing anything and I can get the experience of an EV vehicle. Because as someone who makes videos, but an automotive journalist in the making, I suppose, I think I almost owe it to myself to really experience them before I talk trash on them. As much as I would hate to see vehicles like the Corvette or the RX-7 go away, I see why they're trying to push it so much. We're just not ready with the infrastructure to get there. So I think I'm gonna order a new R3X, and I'd love to hear your guys' opinions because I think Rivian honestly did a really, really good job. I've always liked their vehicles, and from what it seems is their quality control is a lot better than something like a Tesla, and their materials are a lot better than what would be in a Tesla. I just don't think it's acceptable for someone who's gonna spend $120,000 on a Plaid, and then the interior is going to rattle or squeak around, and there's gonna be panel gaps that are the size of your thumb. Rivian seems to be doing really well, and people say their company's gonna go bankrupt or whatever. It's not going to happen, right? Rivian is the #2 EV manufacturer at the moment. I think Rivian and Tesla currently are the only 2 electric cars that you should really be buying. Lucids are depreciating like crazy. Maybe if you buy a depreciated Lucid, but Tesla has the whole infrastructure, and if you can bear with their bareness of the interior, I think it's great. I don't like the minimalistic interiors. I wish there was a screen in front of you, and like the Cybertruck, there's no screen in front of you. Model 3, there's no screen in front of you. I kind of wish I had that. Again, I haven't driven one yet, so maybe my opinions will change, but even for some people who I know that do drive them, they still wish there was a screen in front of them. I don't like that, and I wish it wasn't as minimalistic as they are. Some new vehicles are insanely overdone, and this is like the exact extreme opposite of being overdone. I think Rivian has done a beautiful job with everything they're doing right now. I think it'd be cool to have an R3X. It looks cool. I wish it was a little smaller, but I guess that's not what Rivian is going for, but also that's not what the market wants right now. Everyone wants an SUV or a truck, especially in America. My opinions have changed over time, and we've talked a lot about how EVs are kind of worse for the environment and all of these things, and at the time I knew that the emissions and everything weren't going to be horrible for long. It's just something interesting that I thought I'd make a video on because it did pique my interest, and I honestly am thinking about ordering one. I'm going to try my best not to title this video, "I'm buying a Rivian," but it's kind of hard not to because you gotta play the YouTube game sometimes. At the time, I don't really know what my financial situation is going to be or anything along that extent, but I guess we'll see. As always, I will see you guys in the next video. Check out some other videos on the vehicles that I do have right now, and stay tuned for the future. Sounds nice. I'll wait. I can hear that bike idling from about half a mile away.